Thank you very much, Rod. I'm here also as Michael's father, by the way. So my name is Yossi Matias. I'm Vice President of Engineering Research at Google. I work on AI, and I worked for over a decade on search. But I'm also head of the center in Israel, which I helped. I started actually some 17 years ago. So very much embedded in the tech ecosystem, very passionate about the tech ecosystem in Israel. And I'll say a few more words about that. But before that, I want to say, even though the talk is entitled Transformational Opportunities with AI, let me start by talking about transformational opportunities with the human spirit. Because AI is transformational, it's going to change everything, it's amazing, but it's a tool, it's a technology. The real power is the human spirit, and I don't think that there's any stronger illustration, an example of the human spirit of what we see here with Ishai and Hila and Ophir and the family, and taking such personal loss, which is difficult to comprehend, impossible to comprehend, and take that as a as a start of an initiative to build, to innovate, to gather together and embody what I think is some of the most important aspects of the human spirit and some of the things that we cherish and proud of when we think about Israel in general and Israeli high-tech in particular. So when people are talking about Israeli high-tech, I mean, I'm sure Saul is going to talk more about that later. He practically branded Startup Nation. But really, when you think about it, it's really the spirit of togetherness, of being bold on making outside on that wall. I saw that there's this wall with impossible becomes possible. So essentially pushing the art of the possible, of supporting each other, and what we've seen actually, and the examples we've seen here around since October 7 is, I think, is inspiring. So anybody who went to see, for example, the many people coming together to try and use technology in order to help out with the kidnapped, and sitting shoulder to shoulder, people from companies, from startups, day and night, doing whatever they can. This is the the spirit that I think we all cherish. So thanks Ishai and the family and everybody for these initiatives, and thanks for everybody being here today. So I'll spend a few. So I will go back to the topic of my talk, which is about the transformational power of AI, because artificial intelligence technology is something which is very powerful. It's kind of impacting our lives. And I can't think of something which is more powerful than artificial intelligence and the transformation that it's going through. Now, personally, I've been looking into that since I was an undergrad student. But but in the last decade, actually, we see that changing on a rapid pace. That's why I put all my time on that right now. But in the last just couple of years, we've seen changes that were totally unanticipated. So I'm going to touch on 3 areas that I'm particularly interested in, and I see these great shifts of influence of artificial intelligence. One is about climate AI, how to use AI for the climate crisis. The other one is about healthcare, which AI is actually already saving lives. And the third one is generative AI, which of course everybody would know by now. For the past year, probably a year and a half ago, very few knew what it actually means. Now, when we talk about, let me start with the climate and just illustration of how we take a need and transform it into an opportunity, and why I actually got interested in this question of how to use technology and AI in particular for climate. This is a picture I took with my phone 13 years ago. I was in our office in Haifa. We have offices in Tel Aviv and Haifa. There was the big fire in the Carmel Mountain. I didn't know what's going on, so I did what many others did, which is searching at Google. I didn't find anything useful. Eventually, I found a phone number by the mayor's office, which said, here's a number the police is putting out. So I asked the search team to actually put something out so that anybody looking for information can find something useful. This was probably one of the fastest launches ever in search, because it was about providing actionable information to people in need. And this actually evolved over time, and I actually got myself, actually worked on search. So it turns out that, well, it's all about giving people information in the time they need it, and during crisis, that's the time that they need it most. So fast forward a few years later, we launched something called SOS Alert, which essentially is providing information to people during crisis. In fact, in October 7, just a couple hours after learning what's going on, I found myself already in kind of a warm situation with the team, global team, and launching SOS Alert to provide actionable information because there was a lot of noise and misinformation about what's going on. And actually, this was for a long time. But as we were, and this is something that we launched also during COVID, SOS Alert was used for that. But then we discovered that actually we only the ability to provide helpful information is as good as the information we have. And some crises around the world actually don't have enough information, notably floods. Floods actually are responsible for thousands of fatalities every year, impacting hundreds of millions of people and billions of economic damages. And all the experts said there's nothing that can be done about it. So we decided to do something about it anyway. And fast forward, by pushing some of the science and technology, publishing scientific papers, working with academic communities, working with governments, NGOs, et cetera, we managed to actually develop so-called models, hydrologic model, inundation models, that eventually enabled us to provide not only prediction of where floods are going to be, but to make them accurate enough so that people can take action. And just a few months ago, we actually expanded our capability to show these predictions. It's now available in 80 countries around the world. Most of the work is done by a team in Israel. People are passionate about how to use technology to save lives. Interestingly enough, even during the period after October 7, where people were personally influenced, etc., still people were busy in making sure that the information, the right information, the helpful information is available for those that need globally. Now, that's an example for something that I'd like to show that, again, very much resonates with what's on the wall there. It's a problem that appeared to be impossible. Most people thought it's impossible, and it's solved anyway, which makes me optimistic that with technology, we can take many difficult problems and actually make them possible. But again, because of a human spirit of tackling and not taking any impossible as a given. I would say that on climate, I just actually also, I was in COP28 where the general spirit is very pessimistic, of course, about where the world is heading. The optimistic in me actually identifies that technology is non-linear. We can actually do things that currently are impossible. One example that I like to give is that we have this project using AI in order to just do small optimizations in traffic lights that is running in dozens of places around the world, where we show that actually the carbon emission within the intersection without any installation can actually be reduced by 10%. And to me, this is an example that something that can be done that nobody actually thought about it just a couple of years ago. And the question is, what else can we do? But there are more that can be done, but let me switch to healthcare, which is another important example of transformational capabilities of AI. Now, diagnostics by healthcare, of course, this is not new. There are many researchers out there, et cetera. And for many years, it wasn't clear how it's going to get into the clinical situation. I think we're now at an inflection point that this is already happening. For example, you can see on the picture here, research on mammography that shows that AI can actually do work that is on par with experts. And actually here in the UK, there's work that's funded by NHS of bringing together various health organizations, academics, research organizations, Google is part of that, on how to try and incorporate it so as to save lives. And this is one of many other examples. I was just in Thailand last December to see how some breakthrough research of a few years ago is now already in the field helping people keep them from blindness. Now, what we see on the left-hand side here is another example that of how to use those large language models that we're all familiar with. You know about GPT, you know about BART, about those so-called LLMs. Now, a team of mine looked about a year ago into the question, can we actually fine-tune them to do a better job for medical information? And a breakthrough research that by now is already published in Nature showed that you can actually have this medical tuned a large language model that could answer questions in the medical school style exams and do that for the first time in a passing score, which is 60%. This was kind of a pretty big deal a few months ago. But interestingly enough, just a few months later, already showing that this can be passing those tests in an expert level, 85% or close to 90. And later also showing that it also can answer stuff about multi-model kind of things, such as take a CT images and tell me what it's there. Now, this is obviously promising that technology can help out, bring more and be helpful to healthcare workers around the world. Just yesterday, we announced actually this technology is available for partners that in the healthcare business to actually use that in various use cases very carefully, of course, but for example, to help out remove some of the administrative burden of healthcare workers. So there's a lot of promise here on something that just a year ago seems like too far to actually appreciate. And these are just a couple examples from healthcare. Generative AI, talking about that, everybody, of course, I'm sure, tries it out and wonder about the progress it's done. Just recent results shows that our model that we just recently announced, and similarly other models by other companies, can do stuff such as pass on coding competitions. In fact, in a way that is better than many or most participants. Obviously, it creates some new opportunities and new adjustments that we need to do. But again, the optimist in me says that this is a hugely powerful technology that can be leveraged in so many different ways. Now, the future is really in the next generation. And it's really with entrepreneurs of today and tomorrow. Just highlighting that we have this program called Hello Tech, where we're trying to bring in youth in Israel around the country. It's a national program to get them closer to technology and to science, building on a program that we call Mind the Gap that we've been running for 15 years. And one thing we're trying to incorporate is actually to have some AI skills into that, because everybody should know something about AI. And actually, during the war, we actually kind of pivoted a little bit, and we tried to put more emphasis on evacuation centers and support many of those. So the next generation, of course, is I think where the promise is. And when I meet young students, I tell them that I don't think there was a point in history that people could so quickly learn skills that in such a short time could actually save lives and make a difference for people, for communities, for the planet. But just closing the circle back into the opportunity and why we're here today. Again, I'm a great fan of startups. On the climate, for example, we have this program called Startups for Sustainable Development, where we're mentoring and providing a community for over 500 startups in 70 countries. Many of you are familiar with the Google for Startup Accelerator, Google, that started in Tel Aviv as an experiment just a decade ago. Now it touches thousands of startups globally. We have Campus Tel Aviv and other campuses where we have this community stuff. And what we see in Israel, of course, is a great kind of, again, the spirit of bringing together and supporting each other. Now, I think now more than ever, it's important to actually see how to seed up the next generation. The opportunities are greater than ever. It's time of changes. AI and other technologies are providing high pace of changes. And I can't think of a better place for adapting to changes and embracing and harnessing that than the tech community in Israel and startups here. So with that, again, I'm proud to be here with my friends and admire the initiative and everybody who support that, and wishing all the startups and all the investors best of luck on that. Thank you very much.